What's up, guys? It's Will Sports, and today I'm going to be talking about the expansion news for the ACC. They're going to be adding Stanford, Cal, and SMU in 2024. So I think we all knew this was obviously a possibility. It had been reported for weeks, ever since the Pac-12 had become, the Pac-4. Stanford, Cal, and SMU have been rumored to be going into the ACC, and Stanford and Cal will be going in, not receiving full shares for 10 years, and SMU will be receiving no money from their media deal. So all of these schools are obviously desperate to get in, and ACC was desperate to add schools to make more money for schools like Florida State and Clemson, who obviously have been outraged that the ACC is so far behind financially than the SEC and Big Ten will be, even the Big 12. So they were very reactionary and decided to add these schools. It is weird seeing Stanford and Cal going to the ACC, being on the West Coast. I think they're going to have to change the name, keep the ACC name, but make it like the All Coast Conference or something like that, because it is not the Atlantic Coast Conference now. When you add a school in Texas and two schools in the Bay Area, it is going to be weird seeing those schools going out to Boston and Miami to play football games, but it's the reality of college sports now, and I can understand why the move was made. As for all these schools and why I think it works, Stanford and Cal just did not want to go down a level. They didn't want to have to go to the Mountain West or the American, which is understandable. Those are prestigious schools who, while they're not great at football, they still provide a lot academically. They're still universities that people know and they're well known. And so I think those schools did not want to have to suffer going to a lower level. And as for SMU, I mean, they just want to be in a power conference. They don't care how they get it. And I can understand that a lot from SMU's point of view. If anyone makes sense in this, I really think SMU makes the most sense for the ACC and just for SMU going to the ACC, because they're a school that obviously is investing in their program and wants to play at the highest level. And I think that this investment of taking no money just to get into the ACC, get your foot in the door, I think in the long run, it's going to pay dividends for them, even if the ACC does happen to lose some schools down the road like Florida State and Clemson, which I do think will happen. At least they're in the ACC now, and that gives them a better outlook than being in the American, where the American is always going through realignment stuff, and they're never going to get the respect or the financial stability that the ACC will have forever. So even if they lose members, SMU's better off in the ACC than they would have been in the American. So it makes a lot of sense. And the ACC gets into Texas, a new market, the Dallas market. SMU does not capture the Dallas market. I can tell you that, though, because I live in the DFW area. SMU is not the number one team here. I mean, TCU, Texas, Texas Tech, the Cowboys, the Mavs, all those teams take attention away from SMU. But that's why SMU is making this move, because now that you're in ACC, you're going to get more eyeballs on SMU football. And they're going to have schools like Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame's going to come here, Miami. That is going to significantly help with the interest in SMU football. So I am happy for them. And Stanford and Cal, while it's not ideal to be playing all the way out on the East Coast, at least you're not having to be Oregon State and Washington State and going down a level. And so, it's better than nothing. The vote was initially not passed because four schools in ACC decided not to vote for expansion. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and NC State. Well, it looks like NC State was the one that flipped their vote in this time around. And so that's what allowed for this to happen, because they needed at least, I think, 12 of the 15 members, because Notre Dame is a part of this vote for some reason, because they're in the conference for everything else except football. So they were in that. So 12 of 15 voted for it, and that's why it's happened. So now Notre Dame is a team that obviously is in the conference, but Stanford coming into the conference, that's a team that they play every year. That is a team now that they can put as a part of their ACC schedule, like the 5 games that they have to play against ACC opponents every year. That could be one of those games, and that frees up another slot for them to add someone else to their schedule. So I think that's why they wanted it. And then, they're going to be obviously going to play Cal Berkeley and SMU now. And I think this is going to be huge for those schools. I think this benefits the schools more than the ACC, though, even though the ACC is making more money. I don't think it's enough money to where adding these schools really makes the conference better. These schools don't really add any value on the field for the ACC. I think in the long run that SMU could be the biggest add though for this, out of this round that they added, because SMU I think has the most growth potential and cares the most about football. So I think they could honestly be a great add. Like if the ACC, if you told me who could they expand with, SMU, Memphis, South Florida, those are Tulane, those are schools that I would have said give a shot to. UConn too. Those are schools I would have said add if you want to grow your conference. But Stanford and Cal are Power 5 brands, so that's why that happened. As far as Oregon State and Washington State, they are left in the Pac-12 or the Pac-2 now. The AAC has come out and said they're not looking to expand westward. So this pretty much means Oregon State and Washington State are going to the Mountain West. There is no other way around it. I know they have not wanted this to happen, but it's going to happen. And I feel for those fan bases that they're going to have to go down a level. But I think them going to the Mountain West is going to make the Mountain West more of a commodity. And maybe the Mountain West can get stronger. This could be the first step to them getting stronger. And while it sucks now, I think those schools have an opportunity to still get into the college football playoff if they win the Mountain West, every year. So that's great for them. And I think this could be a blessing for those schools. And then down the road, if more expansion happens, maybe they get invited to like the Big 12 or something, something like that. Or maybe the Mountain West just gets significantly stronger. But for those schools, I do feel for them because they've done everything right, but everyone around them has left them abandoned. And now, they have nowhere else to go except the Mountain West. It's crazy how quick the Pac-12 has been decimated. I mean, we knew that the Pac-12 was in trouble, but I would have never thought that it would just completely collapse this fast and this sudden. It's wild. It's going to be crazy to see a college football without the Pac-12. And it's the era of the mega conferences. Every conference is trying to go to 16, 18, 20 teams. And so someone was going to lose. Someone was going to suffer in that scenario. And the Pac-12 seems to be the one. As far as the American, let's talk about them. They're losing SMU right after they lost Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston to the Big 12. I feel for that conference because they had a lot of schools that people wanted. And that's the thing that sucks about having schools that people want. It's like you are a valuable conference, but then when other bigger conferences want your schools, you are like, you have to look around you at all times. And that's what's happened to the AAC. Now, the AAC is not what happened to the Pac-12 happen. I mean, they added so many schools that it was not going to happen. But I think the American has got to use this round, and they cannot just go add schools that are in big markets. You have to add established brands, schools that people care about, schools that care about football. You cannot add another Charlotte and another, North Texas. And North Texas, now that SMU is gone, I think that is why the AAC added them, because they knew SMU could possibly leave down the road. So it makes sense to have UNT in the conference now because you still have a presence in DFW, because UNT has a presence here in DFW. A lot of people, there's a lot of alumni that went to UNT, and UNT has a huge enrollment, so it makes sense to have them. But I think the American is going to have to add schools that, have a brand. And I think Army is a team that I'm hearing that they would like to add, but I think if they can get any type of Sun Belt school like at App State, I don't know how possible that is anymore with, the way that the American has been gutted. And if ESPN owns both those leagues, right? So that's why the AAC didn't add them in the first place, in these Sun Belt schools in the first place. I don't know if that would change now, but I know Liberty would be a great option. I think the AAC has got to use this round to add good schools, quality, good schools, because if you're just adding based off potential or their market size, you're not selling these other schools on what you're doing. And I don't think a lot of people liked the ads that they made last time around, but it already happened. You have to be adding the right teams now because your conference could really get even hurt even more, because you still have some schools like Memphis and Tulane and South Florida, UTSA, UAB. These schools are schools that have potential and, you know, have shown flashes of being really good. But if you don't add the right schools this time around, those schools are going to look elsewhere. Memphis is the top Group of 5 team left, in my opinion. Of if you are a Power 5 conference, you want to add a G5 school, Memphis is that top school. So they're lucky to still have Memphis. If they lose Memphis or Tulane, I think that's when the conference really starts to suffer, because, you know, you've lost so many of your quality brands. It sucks, but they can still salvage it, I think. They just have to be smart this time around. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. The ACC will be adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU in 2024. College sports is going to look a lot different in 2024, so enjoy 2023 while you can, because it is the last season of normal football and normal everything in college sports. So yeah, let me know what else y'all would like me to make videos about, and it's been Will Sports. Peace.